Welcome to the Lovecars On The Grid podcast, your global motorsport roundup with me, Tiff, Needell and Paul Woodman.
Welcome to Lovecars On The Grid, your global motorsport podcast, where we look back at a weekend packed full of motorsport, starting with Mad Max, he's back, Indycar and IMSA Sportscars, drama at Detroit. It wasn't the most exciting NASCAR in Nashville, but we follow Formula E. That's, if you can see me now, you'll see that I'm look very jet lagged because I've just come back from China. So I'll give you a bit of an update on that. GB3 at Spa, which is very cool. The youngsters and the amazing Isle of Man TT races, which was just one of the most incredible things you'll ever see. But let's go straight into it because we got to start with Mad Max because he's kind of lost the plot again, hasn't he? I really have warmed so much to Max, really, as you know, anyone that's listened to this podcast. But God, he doesn't do himself any favors, does he?
Mind you, he has said this morning it wasn't right. It shouldn't have happened. He's actually admitted, about the first time I think he's admitted it wasn't right. It shouldn't have happened. But I mean, what a build. I mean, the analysis, I was looking again at Anthony Davidson, who does these most brilliant analysis.
Oh, he's amazing. He's amazing.
Because, it'd been a sort of average race. I was beginning to fall asleep in the middle. It was a typical, I mean, the dear old Sky Sports had given Barcelona, calling it the brilliant track, and it's all it's ever brought is boring races to us. And Sky gave us huge romantic send-off. Crofty called it the brilliant Barcelona circuit, and I actually tweeted that and we know what we're actually going to get is a boring race with lots of pit stops and no overtaking. But I actually got a tweet from I had to go and thank Patrick Keltron because it is tweet. So I can't resist tweeting. No, we're not going to get an exciting race. I want to warn people in a way. I want to say, don't expect too much. He called me the thief of joy. I quite like that.
That's a good saying, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's a.
He said, Tiff, let people enjoy it. You're the thief of joy. Anyway, so it was an interesting race, a bit snoozy, but we had this, great thing with Max going for the three-stopper. It was intriguing. We all thought it's not going to work, and Piastri was well out in the front, so that was going to win, and not. Lando was going to be second, and he got a bit excited when they caught some back marks. They caught up Behrman, didn't they? And who was it? Lawson.
They're having a right old
scrap. Made a bit excited, but they didn't know it wasn't going to happen, was it? But then Antonelli's engine expires in the Mercedes. He parks
again, second time in a row.
Yeah.
Was it the second time? Was it last week or the week before? Because I missed last week. Phil stood in.
Well, it was Alonso's engine expired in Monaco, didn't it? Or Imola.
Yeah, and Antonelli, wasn't it? Imola? Yeah,
I'm not sure.
His own race at Imola, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Whenever Mercedes occurred, because George did it the week before. Anyway.
George was back in his usual fourth place again after a very bad last time out. So now we had everyone in for tyres for the restart for the last 6-lap sprint. And then we had this amazing thing that Red Bull only had hard new tyres, which even Max is out the track saying, why have I got these tyres? And the rumour Hornet says, well, it's the only ones we've got left, sort of thing. So come the restart. First of all, we have the most incredible catch of a slide that just shows Max's skill is just... He's
exceptional.
Awesome. Nobody's brought a modern Grand Prix car back from that sort of angle, I don't think, in the history of Grand Prix racing in the modern day. It was awesome. And then Leclerc was alongside, and I think it was, Rosberg was very good, I thought, today. He's a bit too full of his own way in some times.
I thought Rosberg was excellent. He was very honest.
Yeah. And he actually said at one stage he thought Max had moved into Leclerc slightly because, again, Anthony Davis did a fantastic thing on the analysis, pointing out, because it's a helicopter shot, it actually distorts reality. So he got all his lines out and distance to the edge of the road, and proved that Max didn't move an inch, and it was Leclerc that came over slightly.
Yeah, but he was in front. He was in front, so by definition,
you can. I mean, Max squeezed. They all squeeze each other to the edge.
Yeah, of course.
Max would have squeezed him, and so Leclerc was just moving Max over to the edge slightly. Plenty of room. So that got through, but probably rattled Max a bit. He was I'm on the wrong tyres, and now I'm sideways, and now Leclerc's hitting me, and flipping out, now George Russell's alongside me. And then
And like
George,
like you said, not that long before, he was caught up in that Ollie Bearman and Liam Lawson thing, and
yeah,
he was,
exactly.
what are these effing idiots doing? And
Well, that's true. That had come before, hadn't it?
yeah,
And he was driving a car that it won't steer. My chassis is broken. He's
he
still
was
chasing two McLarens. You know, the car
by his
won't
own
steer, won't
by his
stop.
own words, he was frustrated.
Yes. And the analysis of the George hitting Max thing, I mean, Anthony did it very well. I think Rosberg also said he didn't think he should give the position back. So Rosberg almost supported what Ant was saying.
Yeah.
Because Ant went through the three rules, apparently, which I'm getting used to now. So his front wheels were ahead of Max's mirror. So he had the right. So he was inside. So that was fine. It was his corner. But the second rule is, well, you have to stay on the track as well at the exits. Maybe that's the third rule, which he did, having hit Max. But you have to be under control.
Yeah.
So Anthony Davidson was saying, well, the trouble is he wasn't fully under control because he had a little sideways. But hold on a minute. If you get a dab of opposite lock and you catch it, surely you're under control.
Yeah.
So I would dispute Anthony's definition of under control.
Yeah.
But, and of course, Max did give him room, but the minimum amount of room. So again, if someone's up your inside, you're probably going to expect them to slide a bit, especially going into the dirty air of Leclerc. So you could say, Max could have given him a bit more room. So that is the debate where Anthony Davis said he wouldn't like to be the steward because that was the thing, is was he under control? I would say he was. Bit of opposite lock. Max should have given me more room.
Yeah.
Anyway, then, of course, he goes off down this gate road, comes out ahead, and then surprisingly, Red Bull then radioed, you've got to give it back, which quite surprised me. I don't know the way normally Red Bull, but I think they realised that if he didn't give it back, he'd get a 10-second penalty. And whereas in other races, he's deliberately taken the penalty knowing that he can get a 10-second gap and therefore the penalty is irrelevant. They realised that the penalty so late in the race, would lose him places. So I think they thought if they gave the place back, he could re-overtake George and the world would be a happy place. But of course, having given the place back, Max deliberately hit it. I think everyone really, nobody's trying to hide it. Every person, Rosberg said it, and a lot of other drivers have said it, because it was just a perfect wheel to wheel. He almost deliberately hit him so well that he didn't damage either car in a way, So he hit
so lucky that both cars were able to continue.
But he probably did it perfectly wheel to wheel. And oh dear, it's
So should it be stricter than 10 seconds? Because everyone's harping on about 1996 when Schumacher did it, and
because he lost his whole point when Schumacher hit, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Villeneuve in Estoril, not Estoril, the other track in Spain.
I can't remember where it was. But
he lost his whole year's points, didn't he, for deliberately trying to drive some of the track? I mean,
he's disqualified from the whole championship.
Yeah, lost all his whole year.
Yeah,
I mean, he could argue it wasn't deliberate. He could argue he was trying to re-overtake him and locked up.
You can't.
But he didn't
argue.
lock up, as Rosberg pointed out. He didn't even lock up, so he wasn't panicking because he didn't lock the brake to try to avoid. Max could argue that it wasn't deliberate till the end of the day. I'm sure. Horner will get his photos out and his gun rules and everything else. But it was a really bad black mark on Max's. And this is why, he and Senna, and sadly for me, Senna and Schumacher are these flawed geniuses, which is why Jim Clark will always be my superhero, because he would never dream of
Lewis Hamilton as well.
Lewis has never done it.
If that was the other way around, Polar, the complete opposite of Max going down the inside of George on that corner, Max would have just carried on going, been in front, braked it a little bit later, carried on going, forced George down the... he would have been in front, so technically it would have been his corner, forced George off down the escape road, and he knows that it's his. I mean, but he wants it all his way. That's the problem. And then when it doesn't go his way, reacts like this. So I go back to my question I asked you, should he got more than 10 seconds?
Yes. I think he should have been thrown out of the race. Thrown out of the race, and maybe even more points, because they gave him 3 points on his license, which just handily made him 11. So 12, you get 1 race ban. In fact, that would be the best thing. Instead of banning him from that race, give him 4 points. Yeah. And then he'd have to miss the next Grand Prix. I think that would have been a much better punishment than sort of black flagging him or disqualifying him from the race. You just give him 10 seconds and 4 points. because the 10 seconds put him down to ninth place. So now he gets some points taken off his license at the end of June. So he's got to go through Canada and Austria now with a clean sheet. But of course, Austria is a track renowned for a bit of late breaking archie-barchie. But yeah, it was incredible. I mean, it was mind-blowing, you know, in Rosberg, everyone was shocked in the commentary box. And did you see the three of them in the podium room after watching it happen? And they all saw it for the first time. But they were shocked.
Lando's, I get it. But they're so worried about saying the wrong thing, and Lando's is made. But because he mentioned Mario Karts, and then when he's been interviewed, and he's saying, "Oh well, no, that it was okay, and I can't really comment on it." And so I get it, but he was a naughty boy, Max, really naughty. Frustration, I know, but you can't let it boil over, because then it's the same as football, a sport that we both follow a lot. The kids all do what they do on the TV, and they'll be cheeky to the ref.
Well, that's why Senna's famous. If you don't go for a gap, you're not a racing driver. It was one of the worst things to ever say for young karters and worst thing to ever say. Anyway, so it was quite an exciting Grand Prix, despite my stealing the joy of Formula One fans by pointing out that it's not going to be a very exciting race.
It's amazing. I was watching it at 36,000 feet coming back from China. Isn't it amazing technology now? Who would have thought that? But annoyingly, it's halfway through, it must have gone to a different zone or something. It said, "Oh no, you're not allowed to watch this in this area." So, but yeah,
you're off again.
Yeah.
But going back to the beginning, then, just to move through the races it built up. We had the great front wing fuss, didn't we? Flipping out. We've all been waiting. Okay, when this happens, McLaren will be at the back of the grid, and Alpine will be on pole position because they've all had to take away their bendy wings.
And Ferrari will be so much faster.
Didn't make a stuff of a difference, which Hamilton pointed out quite rightly.
Q1, before the race as well. This is just one of the funniest quotes from Bin Salim, Mohammed Bin Salim. Ben, yeah. He said, "It doesn't make Salam, thank you. It doesn't make sense to me that one driver and one team principal earn more money than the entire FIA, and the FIA own the championship. Is that fair?" What is he on? What's he smoking? Do you think people go to a Grand Prix to watch the FIA what's he smoking? I mean, it's unbelievable.
I didn't see that. But you know, with this, I'm worried about this, even if Sainz does challenge for the presidency, that he's going to lose it, because he's already, I say, buying, getting votes, gaining votes. Apparently, you go to each country and you must have at least one supporter in each country. So if he can block out one country, then nobody can challenge him. It's all over. So if he goes around getting support and signing up people that have a vote. Anyway, so yes, there still worries me about.
Guess what? Africa, Nigeria will give you.
I know.
Didn't you want that big sponsorship deal
for your junior
for your karting
drivers? Yeah, a bit of karting. So the wings went. Yuki was qualified 20th. I feel so sorry for Yuki. He's just admitting he doesn't know. He's driving the car. It feels quite good, but just hasn't got the grip.
Doesn't it, this whole second driver for Red Bull thing, but doesn't it make you realise how good Max is?
Well, I know. Or I don't know how bad the guy, I don't know. It's really weird. The trouble is for Yuki, the trouble is for all drivers now, number two drivers, as it were, that the gap, of course, from, say he's half a second behind Max, right? But that, in the olden days, that would have put Perez ninth on the grid to, Max's pole. Because now there's so much more competitiveness. The half a second now, lots of other people come in between you and Max. So, but 20th, I mean, just ridiculous. Sainz, Williams had a terrible weekend. Sainz went out in Q1, 18th. Albon went out in Q2, where he's been a regular, Q3 man recently. Lewis beat Leclerc and qualified, he 5th to 7th, so it sort of looked a bit better. And then, of course, finally, after qualifying, we had the great Lance Stroll wrist injury. I mean, he wanted to race because he loves racing, but everyone's clamouring to say, well, why didn't you give Drugovich a chance? One of your mates, he must have hurt him going around Monaco for all that time. And I think apparently the pain comes and goes, he's been trying to live with it bravely.
So the conspiracy theorists think that it's because he had a tantrum that he was out in Q3.
I know.
And he and because of that, they reckon where he's smashing things in the garage. That's how he
Yeah,
hurt his wrist. So, but you say about Djokovic, but Djokovic and Van Dorn,
yeah,
so they're the reserve drivers
yeah.
for Aston Martin, but they'll be at Le
Oh, Le
Mans.
Mans, they
So
can't do
they
Canada.
so they can't do Canada. However, guess who's been earmarked? If he's still, we never guess, but an ex-world champion.
Jacques
Now you'll guess.
Villeneuve.
No, ex-world
Villeneuve.
champion. No, not that old. Sebastian Vettel. They
Oh,
reckon
right.
he's in discussions with them if because Djokovic and Van Dorn can't race because they're going to do Le Mans.
Le Mans, yeah.
And you wouldn't give that up, would you, just for one Grand
Well,
Prix?
unless it's Djokovic race for Aston Martin. I'm not sure. Because that would be, you
Well, if
could
he's that'd be
maybe
team
get
orders then.
excused
That'd
Le
be team
Mans.
orders then. Yeah,
They'd let you out of your Le Mans commitment. I'm
that's
not sure
true.
who he drives
Yeah,
for.
that's
I think
true.
he is Aston. Is he? I don't know. Anyway, whatever. But I mean, Lance will put a cast on his wrist to race in Canada, won't he? He's not going to not race in Canada. I don't know. What's he got, 2 weeks to make it better?
Yeah.
Um, so we only started 19 and only 18 were on the grid because Yuki popped in to have another wing, same as Max's wing. I mean, he was running a different wing to Max. Max had a low downforce wing and Yuki had a high downforce one, which obviously didn't get him around corners any better. And it was a fairly normal race, as we said at the beginning. You know, it's pretty much a normal, it's just a massive tyres changes going on and people going up and down the leaderboard.
No, I don't mind that. But if McLaren weren't in it this year, a bit like Red Bull the last few years, but if McLaren weren't in it, it would be an incredibly
Yeah.
tight championship. Well, the races would be, you wouldn't really know who's going to win, would you? I mean,
I know we always
you'd
get
still fancy
annoyed, but
Max.
we thought this year, when we build this year, as Red Bull, McLaren, and Ferrari all being on a level pegging, but it hasn't quite worked out that well, has it, Mercedes? We had Fernando fighting for his first points and falling off all on his own, which is a bit like we always talk about motorbike boys, don't we? When the world champion,
Yeah.
drops a bike, you never see a racing driver sort of spin off on his own, but Fernando did. And he got lucky at the end because after the safety car, of course, he was in the backpack that stayed out and were lapped. He was a lapped car. And the 10 in front of him didn't stop. They wanted track position or some of them, and he did. And which way round, I forget, it all worked. But Alonso then got to 9th place on fresh tyres, having been able to catch the pack up. So he got his point. Well, 2 points for 9th. What else was going on? We had this wonderful battle, didn't we, with Lawson, first with Albon bashing wheels, and then with Behrman, some feisty stuff. That was entertaining. Albon eventually, I think he retired because he'd run out of front wings. I don't have any nose cones left.
They used 3 between them, didn't they?
Yeah,
Him and
they're all fighting for that last point, the desperate fight for 10th. So that was pretty impressive. And of course, they held up Lando terribly, much more than they held up Max, and Max complaining.
It didn't make any difference in the end. And the whole, when Max came in for the hard tyres, again, in hindsight, should he have just stayed on the tyres that he's on and done the last 6 laps on them from first place? But then, and that would have messed people up as well behind him. A lot of people would have thought, oh, maybe I shouldn't pit because he hasn't pitted as well. So, but it took so long, and this really winds me up with safety cars. It takes so long. They had to everyone unlap themselves, and they really are a bit of a shambles, I have to say. I know safety first, but how long do these yellow?
They won't let people do the unlapping until the track is completely clear. Well, you've got to trust your drivers to a certain extent. Can't they go around at half speed? The world's best drivers. I mean, Indycar from Detroit. If anyone watched that, we'll talk about that later. The crew are out there with their trucks, but everybody goes back to the awful crash in Suzuka, 10, 15 years ago. But that was in aquaplane flood conditions,
completely different.
Anyway,
a dry, wide open track. If it's a street circuit, we will come on to IndyCar in a moment because they're under yellow flags. People went around a corner and there was a bit of a pile up. But a wide open. Just use a bit of common sense.
Well, sports cars now. Well, sports cars. I mean, it's horrendous. Le Mans is about 25 minutes. Yeah. And they put all the GT cars in a row behind all the prototypes, and they get everything all. Oh dear. Just the final story of the Grand Prix that nobody really noticed too much, whatever he did, was Nico Hülkenberg ending up with a 5th place in
17th on the grid, I think.
I know. Well, he overtook Hamilton, and Lewis sounding almost suicidal. Man, how come, man? Why, man? Why are we on these? Why are we here, man? Why are we behind? Why am I slow, man?
Car's worse than ever. The car's worse than ever. There's something wrong with the car. So how did Max Verstappen Well, it's just down to fans, isn't it? Max Verstappen won the driver of the day, and surely it's got to be Hulkenberg. Come on, guys.
Look, the fan zone is not the most logical voting system. Let's just accept that and move on.
Yeah. So all in all, it was quite entertaining, but thanks to the safety car at the end.
Well,
And one thing we haven't said is Oscar Piastri. He's dominating.
Yeah, I know. Forget it's a bit like the last 2 years. We forget to talk about Max. People say, "Why are you contemplating Max for another brilliant win?" Because we're so busy talking about what was going on behind. We always forget. Yeah, as you said, Oscar just he's quicker than Lando at the moment, without a doubt. And I think Lando's going to struggle to get back past him again. British Grand Prix, hopefully, make a comeback. But yeah, Formula 2, Formula 3,
he's
of course,
sneaky fast. It's only his third season as well,
and he's so metronomic. Did you see? It was interesting that Leclerc in the little room afterwards said, "Did your balance change a lot during the race?" Trying to sort of extract a bit of. And Oscar sort of looked at him. No, not really. First, no. And then Leclerc went on a bit. Oh God, my second set of tyres. I just changed the balance completely. Did it not happen? And Oscar said, "No, I just." Metronomically. I mean, how much he had to spare, who knows? I mean, every time Lando caught him by a tenth or two, he just pushed the lead back out to three seconds, a safe 3 seconds. Lots of fun in games in Formula 2, especially. Alex Dunn, this Irish kid that's really coming on strong in Formula 2, who unfortunately caused a huge shunt to Monaco when he pushed Victor Martin wide at the first corner. He got a 10-place grid penalty for doing that. And then in the qualifying, one of the practice sessions, he comes slamming into the pits at Barcelona, doing his normal rehearsing, getting to the stopping down to 80 kilometres right on the mark to minimise your pit entry time. And there was Martins cruising along in front of him, and he just couldn't stop in time because it's a long curved. He didn't see him, didn't know he was there. So he slams into the back of Martins again. But he got 3-place penalty for the sprint race and 3-place for the feature race. The 10-place was only for the sprint race. But then we had this crazy sprint race where he battled up to about 10th place, I think, and then there was a full course yellow. So that lovely condition with the back half of the grid, because they run one time the sprint race, they don't change tyres at all. So the back 10, including Alex, go into the pits for a fresh set of soft tyres and came out. And him and Richard Verschoor, who was ahead of him, the Dutch boy, just overtook everybody. And Verschoor won it, and Dunn was second from 19th on the grid to finish second after all his drama at Monaco. Then they did the same thing in the main race. The main race, Arvid Lindblad, our British driver who's Swedish and Asian heritage, he won from pole position easily. But again, the two of them, Verschoor and Dunn, were on the change, the other option. They started on the hards and were finishing on the softs. So they were catching up so fast. And with 2 laps to go, a full course yellow came out. And so they finished the race under a safety car. But they could have finished first and second again. It was quite an exciting race. And Lindblad, of course, is the next man on the Red Bull list. So,
okay. Was it a justified full course yellow or another?
No, just a car parked in the gravel, with 2 laps to go. Nobody crashed. I forget it was. A car was parked in the gravel. Or parked to the side of the road. You can't have any racing now. Oh, don't get me going.
Why can't you?
Even Kimi Antonelli, it was a hairpin bend, one of the slowest corners on the track. He'd run miles through a gravel track to park it. I mean, just get the driver out, the marshal's behind the barrier, and leave the car there. I mean, the chances of it causing any injury, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
But then, of course, safety cars give us exciting racing. So that's the way the Americans have done it. That's the way Americans have done it for donkey's years.
Yeah, but not finishing a race under a safety car. There's nothing worse. I mean, ask Michael Massey about that.
Yeah. No. Just another thing, the Formula 2, interesting, Sebastian Montoya, son of Juan Pablo, who has been completely rubbish. He's done 3 years in Formula 3. He finished 21st, 16th and 17th in 3 years of Formula 3. He's only ever won 2 single-seater races, and they were Formula Regional Asia wins for the minor single-seater series. But all of a sudden, he qualified, I think, 3rd at Monaco and finished 3rd, got his first ever podium. And then he's on the front row, qualified 2nd in Barcelona and finished 2nd. It is bizarre. I don't really know. Because he did Formula 4 with Prema. When Prema's normally get a Formula 4 Prema car, you're going to win at least one race, probably win every race. He's now with Prema in Formula 2 that seem to have got their car sorted this year. But it is bizarre, this, because I would have written off Montoya. I mean, if you'd asked me at Christmas, what on earth Juan Pablo wasting all his millions on this child that's, not quick enough. And now he's sitting in the front run on the podium, 2 races on the trot. It's a weird, weird world, judging skills. Formula 3 race, the Van Amersfoort Dutch team got the tyres right or whatever right, and their drivers came first and second, the Portuguese Dominguez and the Mexican Ramos. But in the feature race, this Brazilian, Rafael Camara, keep saying Rafael Camara because he just dominates this championship at the moment. He's got a real skill and will be there in Grand Prix racing in 3 or 4 years for sure, I would say.
They'll love that, won't they, the Brazilian?
They've already got one, because they got Bortoleto. I always forget that Bortoleto is Brazilian.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I always forget that he's Brazilian. I suppose Bortoleto doesn't sound, I don't know, any name doesn't sound. Names don't really sound their nations anymore, do they now? You've got no idea.
Yeah, but I guess there's Brazilian, isn't it? Because you don't want just someone that's going to make up the numbers. You want someone that's going to be competing for a championship.
Well, these two will. Camara for sure.
Okay.
Because he dominated Formula Regional last year. So he's been on the winning podium for a while. Over in the good old US of A, we went to Detroit. So this amazing street race, which is just guaranteed entertainment. It's 1.6 miles and about 9 corners. That's all it is. But there's one huge long straight, so you can overtake. There's a back straight where you can also overtake as well if you're brave and late on the brakes. Then 27 IndyCars, in Formula 1, with 20 around Monaco's too many cars in qualifying. But first out of the Saturday was the IMSA cars, 11 hypercars and 11 GTs. And finally, the GTP class, the outright win, wasn't a Penske Porsche. The Acura stopped the win. The Acura, which of course is Honda-ish, but it's Acura in America, with British driver Nick Yellerly, one of the paired with the Dutchman Rui van der Zande. So win for Britain in the prototypes. In fact, the Chevrolet Cadillac came second, I think, and the Penske Porsches were third and fourth this time.
When was it?
Saturday, last weekend.
Yeah, but where was it?
Detroit,
of course, yeah.
Detroit. Your jet lag's kicking in now. But also good stories from Britain in the GT class. The Ford Mustang came home ahead of a Chevrolet Corvette and a Huracan Lamborghini. Wonderful variety, great racing. And Sebastian Priaulx was one of the 2 drivers, Andy Priaulx's son, who's carving himself a career over in America, sharing the Mustang with Mike Rockenfeller. So that was all pretty entertaining. I didn't actually watch that because I had to go onto Tinternet and find it because it wasn't on telly. Then the IndyCar race last night was just brilliant entertainment. I mean, just colourful cars. They follow so close, because the ground effect.
They really do, don't they?
I know they're on it, and they're lighter than Formula 1 cars. They got their push. They have to refuel, obviously. There was a bizarre thing in qualifying when I'm going to forget names now, of course. To start, Tiff. The Australian Wayne Power with Will Power decided to push Carl. He caught up Carl Kirkwood, who was sort of tentatively trying to overtake another lap, a slower car, because also they tried to make space, to go for a practice lap. So Power hit the back of Kirkwood and then decided to stay connected and accelerated and pushed Kirkwood through past this other back marker through a corner. Then it sort of pushed him off his nose and disappeared, laughed about it afterwards. Well, once I got me a nose on his gearbox, I thought I might as well leave it there. Never seen anything like that. Just how strong their nose cones are. But that was just in the qualifying. I mean, the race itself, the race was pretty much
No, I was just going to say that made me think of in the pits at the Formula 1 in Barcelona. Lewis wouldn't let one of the Williams, I think it was, come out, and he was like a millimetre away in the pits. Like you do these idiots at traffic. You're one of those. Boy, let someone come in the merge in the lane, and Lewis wouldn't let him in. But they do it when they're doing like 170 miles an hour.
But this was just solidly pushing him past. But anyway, it's the Andretti boys, Carl Kirkwood, that went on to win the race. Colton Herter, his teammate, was on pole, finished third. So it was a good weekend for the Andrettis. In fact, Carl Kirkwood can only seem to win on road course. He's won 2 Long Beach races and now 1 Detroit race. And he's superstar predicted 5 years ago, but hasn't really matured everywhere else. Amazing story. In between them, though, was the person that qualified 22nd, 21st on the grid. And this, again, is what you could do in IndyCar, Santino Ferrucci in his AJ Foyt car. He'd been running midfield, mid-pack, but a full course yellow came out just after he'd done his final pit stop to put in enough fuel and finish. So, of course, when the safety car came out, everybody else had to come in. And Ferrucci found himself leading the pack. But he fought hard for the lead, but it was Kirkwood got past, Ferrucci came second, Hurt a third. But the full course yellow, rather frighteningly, was for British rookie Louis Foster, who did an amazing job out there. He qualified 13 in the 27 car field. And he actually got to the top of the leaderboard, but he stayed out longer on his first set of tyres. Again, it's all strategy in IndyCar. You've got to run the soft tyre at least once, and then you run the other tyre twice. But he had this suspension failure hitting the brakes. I mean, there was no talk about you might have clipped the wall or anything like that. According to him, it's just the suspension. Very, very bumpy circuit. I mean, you can't believe what the drivers are going through. They're opposite locking. It's such a tight circuit, wall to wall. I mean, it's just amazing just to watch them go around the track on their own. But suspension failed, no brakes. Luckily for him, poor old... it was Felix Rosenquist was in the way, so he smashed in the back of Rosenquist, put Rosenquist in the barrel and continued way on down the
That's the worst way to go out of a race, when you just you mind your own business, turning a corner or something, and then whoosh.
So anyway, so they also had a full course yellow that changed the race towards the end, but I thought it was greatly entertaining. I just love watching those cars being driven on the limit, so near the walls. They hit the walls, tap the walls. Great stuff. Also in America, NASCAR had a pretty dull old race, to be honest, around Nashville. It happens sometimes. Some circuits you can't overtake, they get strung out. And Ryan Blaney led them home quite easily at the end. The 9th different win of the year. And now with only 16 getting through the playoffs, there's only now 7 spots for points. So already people are thinking about the playoffs. The second place was quite his best result. I'll call him controversial Carson Hocevar, this 20-year-old kid who just doesn't care, basically, about other people at all or their reputations. And he just goes for everything. He goes for gaps, goes for moves that are a bit wild. He's put quite a few of the big names in the wall already this year. And he's now added Ricky Stenhouse to his list of drivers that one day have marked the scorecard of Carson Hocevar and will punt him into the wall.
Was that the yellow car? Is he in the yellow car?
Yeah, well, he changed his colours from races to race. The 77, but it was Ricky Stenhouse he helped into the wall this time. So, but again, his best result, he hasn't won one yet. He's a real character and a star for the future, but there are a lot of people who've got a mark on him to put him away. And Kyle Larson finished 8th. So a bit processional out there. So we leave America, and then we head to a place called Shanghai in China, where we bring on board our on-the-spot reporter. First of all, what's the mood in Formula E? We've had drivers leave Jaguar. We've got team manager left Jaguar. We've got
manufacturers. The drivers haven't left Jaguar. You still got the same 2 drivers for Jaguar
for next year. He's quit already. He's out for next year.
Yeah,
he hasn't said where he's going.
Quitting. Yeah. And James Barkley, the team principal, he's leaving.
Yeah.
So,
but are they aware that they're not loved by main? Are they where they're just looking for a new audience? I mean,
if you speak to anyone there, they say any driver, any pit crew, any team principal would prefer to be here than any other formula. Absolute bollocks. It's bollocks. I'm sorry. The only way that you prefer to be there is if you're, I don't know, like a Van Dorm or whatever, that you want to.
They've got a sports car drive as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you want to just do 10 races a year, not do too much travel. Formula One is pretty intense on the travel side of it. But I know why they're doing it, and I really applaud them why they're doing it, and all this sustainability thing. Because you go in the paddock, there's not a single truck, motorhome, trailer, nothing. They got nothing. All they do, they drop these 3 shipping containers outside each garage, and it's like a modular design. Goes in the garage, and then they pack it up, cars and all, and then the next time they see all that is at the next race. So I applaud them what they're doing, and I really do get it, but I just can't warm to it. I'm sorry for anyone there, but the drivers, world-class drivers, world-class teams, world-class pit crews, world-class everything, circuits. It was half the circuit, Shanghai, the Formula 1 circuit. Still, it's mighty impressive, probably too big for that. And I love, you just mentioned about IndyCar, you say that all the time, that you see the opposite lock. Loads of that going on. Loads of them getting wild in the
yeah.
cars, especially, of course, in the wet.
Well,
But
they're not easy.
even
They're not easy to drive. They're not easy to drive the limit. That's why you've got the best drivers in the world doing it.
yeah.
But they feel they're entertaining their races. I mean, everyone just puts on the smiling faces. Do they? They play the game.
Well, again, it's not a race like you would typically get a race where you would go flat out. It's what everyone's complaining about at Monaco, where they go 3, 4, 5 seconds a lap slower. It's the same sort of thing there because it's a strategy race as well. It's not just who's the best driver, who's got the best car.
What do they call it? Peloton, like
Exactly.
cyclists. I mean, because the first race in the dry was a bit of a peloton race, wasn't it? And they all went round in a bunch, and it looked incredibly exciting because they all tried to slowly get from 10th to 3rd, aren't they? But not use much energy doing it. And then for the last few laps, but what it was, so in the end, Max Günther was just miles ahead of everybody when there's sort of all the pit stops and all the. Because they did pit stops, didn't they? Do they look dramatic to you when they come in and
ridiculous.
plug in?
What a waste of time. Absolutely ridiculous. I'm sorry. So it's, I can't remember what it's, power charge or something like that. It's just so pointless. And they could. So they're restricted to 38.5 kilowatts battery energy. Sorry. But they've got a maximum capacity of 50. So they could race flat out if they wanted to. They're fast and they're impressive. And they could probably be as fast as a Formula 1 car if they had slick tires, they had more downforce. But they don't want that. They're looking for something else. And like you said, Günther was epic. He won pole position, fastest qualified by quite some way, and he dominated the race. He was and Jay Penske, your man, Roger's son. He's the team principal of DS. He was over the moon.
But again, it's like they got the computer program right for that race. They worked
exactly
because both Penske cars win. The Jaguars are at the back of the grid most of the time now, and the sort of the Nissans have been more permanent in the top 5 every race. And it's a bit, they're all the same car, but they've got different powertrains, and it's a bit like McLaren are better at the moment and
using Nissan powertrain.
But I must admit, when I say about are they all still full of the beans, do they not feel, oh God, this is a bit stupid, this formula we're doing? Because at the end of the Penske garage, they're almost in tears. I mean, a couple were. I mean, the emotions of winning a Formula is still like any other motorsport.
Of course it is, yeah. And the same the next day with Jaguar, because Jaguar, the 2024 champions, of course, it's not 2024, is it? Because it's the seasons are 23, 24. So this season is 24, 25, even though there's only one race, December in 24.
I don't like
anyway.
Football it annoys me. What season
football's okay. Yeah, but football's okay because you got 4 months in it, or 3 or 4 months in a year, but not one race.
Just use the year it ends it. That's all you.
So Jag haven't won a race this year, but they won the wet weather race on the Sunday. It was biblical on Sunday. But I tell you, for me, the problem is the cars actually in real life sound quite good when you hear the wind going past and stuff. They sound quite good. They don't sound very good on the TV. But the problem for me is, so the qualifying finished at 11:43, not 11:45 or anything, 11:43, which is fine. And then the race wasn't until 5 minutes past 3. I don't know why it's 5 minutes past 3 and not 3, but the race was 5 minutes past 3. So you got over 3 hours, 3 hours, 20 minutes of nothing happening. How can you got at a Grand Prix, you got Formula 2. I don't think there's enough at Grand Prix, by the way, but at least you got Formula 2, Formula 3, Porsche Super Cup. Sometimes you got the F1.
I thought they were talking about using the old cars for young drivers.
They need to do something. They got
but
to
you've got to pay, but
on.
Someone's got to pay for it.
Well, it's not that. I don't think it's the payment side of it, because I think to get an extra £1 million from each one of the teams probably is not the hardest thing to do. The hard thing is the sustainability, because they want to be green. And if they do another series, it's not green, is it? Because people are turning up in petrol cars, which of course they can't have. But it's so boring.
Is that because they're going to charge? That's how long it takes to charge the batteries, or what?
Good question. I don't know, actually. I don't know. That's a very good question, but I don't think so, because it wouldn't take that long with the superchargers.
Yeah, but maybe they don't. Yeah, but don't they like supercharging batteries? From what I've heard, isn't that they always say that even road cars? You don't really want to use the ultra fast charging often, because
as long as you go slow, and as long as you condition your battery, so you don't just unplug it. And at sort of 70% when it's on a fast charge, you condition it so it goes up slowly, charges fast, then goes down slowly before you plug it out, unplug it. But they need some support racing.
Buzz in the city of Shanghai, big adverts up everywhere.
Well, we had a local fixer, Shanghai Inn. What do you call someone from Shanghai?
Yeah, probably.
Shanghainese lad, lovely lad called George. Lovely, lovely lad. He ended up spending the whole time with us because we had a bit of visa problems, so one of the crew couldn't make it. But anyway, so George ended up spending the whole time with us. He loved it, and he said didn't know anything about it, had no clue about it. Asked his friends, and he goes to watch Formula One. He loves motor racing. He had no clue about it whatsoever. So they tried to do something in the city centre, but yeah, and then and then the TV shot. Oh, look, I really wanted to do well. I know what it's like when you try and do something, and I think they're doing an amazing job. And I think, what the reasons they're doing it are pretty epic about all the sustainability. But then they kept showing this one TV shot of the crowd. We're looking opposite, and the grandstand is empty. There's nobody in the grandstand. They're showing this one TV shot, and it actually looked quite busy. So I don't know whether they said to people, "Oh, can you sit there, guys?" But then the race on the Saturday. It seemed like there was quite a few people, but they'll say it's a sellout. It's a sellout. And you think, oh wow, that's good. You go there, there's no one there because it's a sellout because they'll have 5,000 tickets or
Did you ask your
3,000.
fixer how much they have to, what is a ticket? You ask out of interest.
Oh, I did, and I'm embarrassed to say. Well, I am going to say because we're honest. They were giving tickets away to schools and universities for free. So he said. So
anyway, it rolls on. It rolls on. There's not many rounds left, though. What have we got left in Formula E?
You got Berlin, London, and Jakarta. Jakarta's next weekend, so they've had a brutal time over in the Far East. They did Japan a couple of weeks ago, or last week, and then China, and now Jakarta. Jakarta's the one they don't like because it's like 30, low 30s, and very, very humid and hot. So, but yeah, so Jag. 1-2 for DS on the dry day. Taylor Barnard, who is the real deal, he's proper bloke, came third. Her Klaus McLaren are going out of Formula E next year. And then the wet weather, Nick Cassidy was exceptional. Pole position.
Saw that.
Really exceptional.
Well, I suppose Barnard could be a shoe-in for Jaguar then if Cassidy wants to leave, which apparently does.
That's true, yeah, because he won't ever drive next year.
No.
I asked Ian James, he's the team principal for McLaren. I sat with him at Autosport Awards actually. I just said, what's going to happen? He said somebody will be there. He couldn't obviously tell me, but someone will be there. But McLaren have got some exciting stuff coming up. I'm excited for WEC in 2027. You're going to have McLaren and Lamborghini and Toyota. That's the place to be, and that's the rumor. James Barkley didn't tell me this. He wouldn't tell me. I didn't even speak to him about that, actually. But that's the rumor that James Barkley might be going to WEC. Yep. So, yeah, good for him. He's a real deal as well.
Back in Europe, good old Europe, we've been following this GB3 series, which is, to my mind...
You say just finally, but you've missed out MotoGP.
Well, they didn't race last weekend. That's why.
Oh, no, that was the week before. I've got my notes to see.
Oh, God, you need a rest. You've been around the world too much. Yeah, no, the only thing we got left is GB3.
Oh, Freddie boy.
Freddie Slater's too. We've been following Freddie. We're big fans of Freddie Slater because we think he's the next Bearman coming up to the ranks. So we followed GB3.
Hang on a minute. Next Bearman. Do you think so? I think he's probably on a different level, isn't he, than Bearman? He's achieving more than Ollie did, and Ollie was...
No, he's not achieving more than Ollie did, I don't think.
Okay.
I think they've both been winning throughout all their careers.
I stand corrected. Good.
Both got very, very well-off parents that have been making them buy the best rides and best seats everywhere.
Good for them.
But of course, he dominated the opening round at Silverstone, Freddie. He couldn't do the second round at Zandvoort because he was racing in his Freca thing. So he came to Spa where he wasn't actually quickest in the end. His teammate, the Japanese kid, Kanato Lee, beat him by a few thousandths of a second in testing. But his car broke down in Q1 after 2 laps. They couldn't fix it to do Q2. So he had to start all 3 races from 23rd on the grid. And in race 1, he got to 9th. And in race 2, he got to 8th. And in race 3, which was a bit of a damp start, and most of the teams were on wets, he put on slicks, like 5 other cars did, and came through from 23rd to win race 3. So despite the world going against him, Freddie still had a win at Spa. And as I said, Alex Ninovich, the Aussie's very good. He's been doing GB3 for a while, second year, I think. He's now leading the championship, having won the first race. And Kanato Lee, this Did he come? Who won the second race? He won the second race. Kanata Lee, this Japanese teammate of Freddie's.
What
Sadly,
bizarre
of course,
qualifying that is, Tiff. Bizarre qualifying that
with two sessions, but it's one quite quickly after the other.
I don't like that. I think that's
And
really,
then the
so. If
third,
you do have a bad luck like that, you're
I
stuck
know.
for the whole weekend.
Yeah, I know.
That's
Well,
ridiculous.
I hate these 3 races in a weekend.
Yeah,
I mean, these kids now, they have 8 weekends. It's like 24-round championship. In Formula Ford in our day, we had 1-day meetings, and every weekend and on Sunday we had a race. So if you had a shit race, one race, you're out, and next week you win, and you know. But no, if you have a problem or crash the car in Q1, you're back on the grid for all 3 races. I think the third grid is your 2 lap times averaged out, is what the third grid is. So he was just 23rd for all 3 races. So all that money and all that way, I don't know what the problem was in Q1, whether the engine just failed or what happened. But because the other reason we're following GB3 is we were hoping to see Abby Pulling do the ladies some justice after a great year last year in Formula 1 Academy. But she was top 10 at Silverstone, and then she dropped out of the top 10 at Zandvoort. And sad in Spa, she had a 16th and 2 17th places. So Abby is not having a good time or enjoying GB3 at all.
I think it's important to say that it is very, very tight, isn't it? They're all exceptional drivers.
So many kids.
Right. Tiff, before we go on to what's happening next week, I've got a challenge for you.
Isle of Man first. I didn't mention that at the time. Just to mention Isle of Man, which is also, we're in the middle of it now. All last week, of course, was practice and then rain and bad conditions and cancelled sessions. And of course, Peter Hickman, this real star of TT, which we're hoping he'd be a favourite to win 2 or 3 races this year, had a big crash. Spent a bit of time in hospital, but he's wandering around now. Then Tom Whedon,
and a sling.
Yeah, Tom Whedon, another ride. He went down and went in. Tom Whedon's crash, because they get so. I see all those photos where they put the shoulder touching the wall. So he clipped the wall with his handlebar, which bent the handlebar and stuck the throttle wide open. So his bike went into a wheelie and he went off the back of it and he just went in and he did a Johnny Herbert almost, I'm afraid, with his ankles. I think one foot was hanging on by the skin by the sound to it. So I don't want to know. But he's all chirpy, in bed, thumbs up, plasters everywhere, saying, I want to get back on my bike as soon as possible. There was a big sidecar crash on Sunday qualifying, the second fastest team, actually, but they're both out of hospital this morning. Apparently they're okay. So the racing actually only starts today. We've got 3 races today, 2 Tuesday, 2 Wednesday, 2 on Friday, and then the Saturday there's the single race, the seniors TT. So best of luck, fingers crossed, be safe.
Have you ever been?
Yes, I've been there once. I've retweeted today. Do you remember I retweeted before? There's a picture of a little 4-year-old kid or a 5-year-old kid at Silverstone when a superbike goes by. There's a famous, and the kid goes,
yeah.
There's one on Twitter now, which I've just retweeted, tiff.tv, Twitter.
Tiff underscore, isn't it? Tiff underscore
TV. Yeah, Dot's the website. I can't remember. Dots and my dashes. Yeah, bloke took his mum, but his mum was waiting by the wall, a bit bored looking, Are they going to come yet? Are they going to come? And the son saying, yeah, they're coming. They're coming. So here they come, mum. So she leans out of the wall. Just great reaction.
Richard Hammond went. I saw that for the first time ever, and he was just like everybody, I think, mesmerised by it.
But so much of it is being close to the action. This is what I say about the Formula 1 or any motorsport now. If you're a whole beach away from the track and you're watching little cars go around the scale, you don't feel those cars. You don't feel that impact. And, when I went to Goodwood as a kid, I was that close to the cars, the noise and the sound and the smell. It is a problem with safety. We are pushing the spectators further and further back, and they don't really get the wow factor, which... standing on the side of the road, I can assure you, the Isle of Man gives you the wow.
I will go. That is definitely a bucket list thing for me. So,
are you about to say before we do next weekend? You're about to say something.
So, Envision want me to challenge you to something to do something. I know to do something to. It could be something very, very small to help the environment.
You're taking a bit. Is this an April Fool? It's not April the 1st.
So
sure?
Something simple that you'll be able to do very easily, such as give up red meat. How do you feel about that?
Have you lost your mind? Oh, for I've honed this body.
Pollyanna Wright, an incredibly talented young lady who's I think she's the environmental executive, sustainability executive. She asked the question. It could be something really small, like giving up red meat.
Small? Have you not got these? Look, I've spent 73 years honing this body on red meat, sugar, salt, butter, hardly any vegetables. And look, if I change the intake, I'm worried it might the whole body might collapse, go to pieces.
Maybe plant some trees in your.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll plant a tree.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Envision have planted 265,000 trees.
Oh, have they really?
Yes.
Really. Anything else smaller?
Yeah. No, plant a tree would be good. Okay. I like trees. I'm going to plant a tree in my garden.
Well, they send me the tree. I want something too small because then they die within the first 3 because I won't water it, obviously, so it'll die. So I want something fairly established. If they can send me one in a truck.
Yeah, I'm sure. Right, they won't send a truck because they can't
give
offset
up
that.
red meat.
And do you know that is the problem for this whole? If anyone's got any ideas about this whole thing in terms of what support they could do at a Formula E race, put some comments somewhere on YouTube or on Twitter or something, please, because they got to do something. Tiff, what's coming up next week?
So next we'll obviously got MotoGP all week. We got Isle of Man all week, and I'm looking at the word MotoGP on my line. Well, I said that they're at Aragon in Spain, World Rally Championship in Sardinia for the Rally Italia, NASCAR Michigan. The Supercars down in Australia, we've had them for a couple of weeks. They're in Perth at the Wanneroo Raceway. That's a proper name, which is the Wanneroo Raceway.
Wanneroo, mate.
But of course, the place to be is Thruxton for the BTCC. Fantastic race, guaranteed. They've got a new spectator area up on the bank during the braking zone for the chicane now, so you can be almost looking down on top of the cars. You're quite close because it's high up a bank. So check out
because you're guaranteed to see some action from there.
Oh yeah, and you can see right across the whole track, virtually.
Are you going to go or not?
I'll be there. Yes, I'll be probably up the control tower in the aeroplanes.
What day are you going?
Sunday race day.
Okay.
So so not much in the single-seater motorsport world at all. In fact, apart from Formula 4s at Thruxton, the only single-seaters we're talking about in our little package, although of course there's club racing around Britain everywhere.
Good stuff.
So that's it. Sorry, Max. Mad Max strikes again.
Is that the headline?
Yerry will be back.
He won't. He's gone. The Dutch go quite quiet when Max has one of his little tantrums, actually. So if you're Dutch, comment below. But
amazing. It's the first time he's admitted he did make a mistake. Finally.
Yeah. He's only human, as aren't we all, but his ways are very dubious.
And we still love him as a driver.
Amazing.
Love him off-road as a person. He's great.
Yeah,
but,
absolutely.
Once those horns come out occasionally.
Frustration. See you, bye.